Imagine a world where making a phone call meant being connected by wires to a wall. This was reality just 150 years ago, before the first telephone changed everything forever. Today, we're going back in time to discover the incredible story of the world's very first phone. You'll learn about the brilliant minds who created it, the shocking controversies that followed, and how this simple invention shaped our modern world. By the end of this, you'll never look at your smartphone the same way again. So grab your favorite drink, and let's dive into this amazing journey through communication history. The year was 1876, and the world was about to witness something that seemed like pure magic. Alexander Graham Bell, a 29-year-old Scottish inventor living in Boston, was working on what he called an acoustic telegraph. You could also use the telegraph, but this only sent coded messages in dots and dashes. Or, you could physically travel to deliver your message in person. None of these options allowed for real-time conversation between people in different locations. His mother was deaf and his father was a famous teacher of speech. This gave Bell a deep understanding of sound, speech, and hearing. He had studied how sound waves worked and how the human ear processes different frequencies. One day in early 1876, Bell was experimenting with his harmonic telegraph with his assistant Thomas Watson. A metal reed got stuck, producing a continuous sound instead of the planned intermittent signals. This moment changed everything. Bell realized that if continuous tones could travel through wires, then perhaps human speech could too. Human speech is essentially a complex combination of different tones and frequencies. The first successful telephone call in history happened on March 10, 1876. Bell was in his laboratory testing his new device when he accidentally spilled battery acid on his clothes. He called out, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Watson heard these words clearly through the telephone and came running. He later said he could not only hear the words but also recognize Bell's tone of voice. This meant the telephone wasn't just transmitting words, but the actual quality and character of human speech. Bell's success story isn't as simple as it appears. The race to invent the telephone involved several other brilliant inventors, most famously Elisha Gray. On February 14, 1876, both Bell and Gray filed patent applications for telephone devices. Bell's application was filed just hours before Gray's. This tiny time difference would later be worth millions of dollars and spark decades of legal battles. The legal fights that followed were intense and lasted for years. Over 600 lawsuits were filed related to telephone patents. Despite all these controversies, Bell's patent held up in court, and he became known worldwide as the inventor of the telephone. Early phones were nothing like the devices we know today. They were large wooden boxes that had to be mounted on walls. Users had to speak into one part and listen through a completely different part. There was no dial, no buttons, and no way to call someone directly. Every call had to go through a human operator. You would pick up your phone and an operator would ask, "Number please." They would then physically connect your wire to the other person's wire. The sound quality was terrible by today's standards. Voices often sounded scratchy, distant, and sometimes completely unclear. Many people were actually afraid to use the new technology. Some thought that electricity running through wires near their heads could be dangerous. Others believed that voices traveling through wires might be some form of witchcraft. Religious leaders even debated whether the telephone was against God's will. Despite these fears, the telephone caught on incredibly quickly. The first commercial telephone service started in New Haven, Connecticut in 1878. By the end of that year, there were telephone exchanges in major cities across America. The first telephone book, published in the same year, was just one page long. It listed 50 telephone subscribers in New Haven. Compare that to today, when there are over 6 billion phone users worldwide. The growth of telephone networks created entirely new industries. Thousands of jobs were created for telephone operators, most of whom were young women. Being a telephone operator became one of the first respectable jobs for women outside the home. Telephone companies had to string wires between cities and eventually between countries. This massive infrastructure project employed countless workers and engineers. The telephone also changed how businesses operated. For the first time, business deals could be made instantly across long distances. Companies could coordinate operations between different locations in real time. Stock markets could share price information immediately instead of waiting for telegraph messages. Emergency services became much more effective when people could call for help instantly. The telephone also changed courtship and dating. Young people could have private conversations without meeting in person, giving them more freedom in choosing romantic partners. Early phones required users to crank a handle to generate electrical power for calls. Later models had batteries built in. The familiar dial phone wasn't invented until 1891, and push-button phones didn't appear until the 1960s. He founded the Bell Telephone Company, which eventually became one of the largest corporations in the world. The company's research laboratories produced countless innovations in communication technology. Many of the basic principles Bell discovered are still used in modern phones. Today's smartphones can trace their ancestry directly back to Bell's first telephone. The idea of converting sound waves to electrical signals and back to sound waves remains the same. Modern phones just do it much more efficiently and add video, internet, and computing power. Looking back, it's amazing to think that Bell's simple device led to our current connected world. Social media, video calls, instant messaging, and global communication all started with that first telephone call in 1876. The telephone proved that distance doesn't have to separate people. So there you have it, the fascinating story of the world's first telephone. From Bell's accidental discovery to the legal battles that followed, this invention truly changed everything. The next time you make a phone call, remember that you're using technology that once seemed impossible. If you enjoyed learning about communication history, hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing invention stories. Next week, we'll explore another incredible story.